Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. And another heavyweight news mashup video today, starting with Daniel Dubois, who says he's paying no mind to Joyce and what he's doing in his training camp in the United States. Joyce has been training in Las Vegas. He's linked up with his former trainer Ismail Salas, so they've regrouped. He's training at the UFC Center, and he's even sparring with MMA star heavyweights like Francis Ngannou. And when asked about this, and this is on Frank Warren's YouTube channel, Queensbury Promotion, he basically said he wasn't interested in what Joyce was doing. It's boxing, crossover stars. He said he's not worried about what Joyce is doing. But in terms of can Joyce bully the bully, he said no, he's got no chance of beating him. And Daniel Dubois says he is going to go in there and seek and destroy. So rather dismissive of Joyce and what he's bringing. And in this promotion for this April 11th fight between Joyce and Daniel Dubois, two up-and-coming prospects, Daniel Dubois seems to be a guy favoured more for this fight to win over Joyce, but this is going to be a very competitive fight and should tell us a lot. But there has been a real edge with some of the comments from Daniel Dubois. Nothing too nasty, but certainly a bit more sort of rhetoric and sort of ramping up what he's saying in this build-up as compared to other fights he's had in his career to date. Meanwhile, Frank Warren says that Daniel Dubois has been built the right way. So in his column on frankwarren.com, he says, the truth of the matter is Daniel has not fought anyone with a record in deficit, and Joe will actually be the third unbeaten fighter he has to take on in his last 4 fights. We've matched our man strategically across his 14 pro fight career to pick up experience, rankings, and titles. He has gone through the traditional process from Southern area through to British and Commonwealth, while also winning coveted international belts that have placed him highly in the rankings. I think some people underestimate his win over Nathan Gorman. I would confidently back Nathan against anyone on Joe's record, and I'm also certain that Daniel would overcome those opponents in a more brutal and speedy fashion. And I guess I'll just jump in there. It's quite a big claim for Frank Warren to say that Nathan Gorman beats everyone on Joyce's record. And remembering, Warren also promotes Joyce here, but clearly he's favouring his number one heavyweight in Daniel Dubois, his golden boy, as it were. But Nathan Gorman beating Bryant Jennings, which is definitely the best win on either Dubois or Joyce's resumes, I don't see that happening. I think Nathan Gorman would lose to Bryant Jennings, just my view. What do you make of that statement? But Daniel Dubois' resume, even though Frank Warren's been talking it up, it is a little thin at the moment, but he is a prospect after all, so there has been some carefully matched fights in terms of some of the guys that Dubois fought. But this is the step up on April 11th that really counts, because the winner can really start building on their career quite quickly and gets themselves much closer to a title shot. At the moment, Daniel Dubois has the number 3 spot in the WBO rankings and potentially in line at some point for an eliminator fight. And Frank Warren continues saying, Joe's team keep banging on about Kyotaru Fujimoto, but that job was chosen because the Japanese enjoyed a lofty ranking with the WBA. He wasn't just picked as pointless fodder, and it was a fight that also saw Daniel add the WBC silver title to his collection. I'll leave it there. There is a bit more, but of that fight with Fujimoto, gross mismatch, and how the WBC silver title came to be on the line, is mind-boggling. But that's the reason that they keep banging on about Kyotaru Fujimoto, because Daniel Dubois should never have been sharing the ring with him. How he managed to fight the opposition that he did to get ranked, that is almost beyond belief as well. But I'm looking forward to April 11th, and you can sort of see that the trash talk, there is an edge to it. It's sort of picking up a bit. It's only a month to go. And Nathan Gorman, Dubois' former foe from 2019, says that Dubois and everyone else should not discount Joyce and write him off in this fight. He says, don't get me wrong, if Daniel hits him, he is going to do some damage. But you've got to remember Joyce is 19 stone plus, and if he hits Daniel, he hurts him. Joyce has been competing as a high-end amateur. He's 30 plus and a man. He can fight. I sparred with him at David Hayes' gym and also in Sheffield at Team GB. He has come on leaps and bounds. We know about his size, but I was very impressed with his strength and work rate for such a huge man. He is very, very fit. I'd imagine Joyce might be careful early on, but he is one of those fighters who can also jump all over Daniel, make it awkward, and smother his space. Nathan Gorman there. The Russian prospect Apti Davtaev, who faces Lucas Browne later this month in Las Vegas, says that his training camp is going well. He says, training in Detroit has made me stronger. I have a fresh new look on boxing. I'm more confident and experienced, and my power has grown immensely. I've also become a more aggressive fighter. I go after opponents and try to finish them rather than just beating them. And if you didn't know, Apti Davtaev also trains at the Kronk Gym under Sugar Hill Stewart. He continues by saying, most of my day is taken up by training. We have a boxing session at Kronk in the morning, and I follow that up with cardio or strength and conditioning training in the evening. I will be in peak condition for this fight. And he adds that a victory over Lucas Browne is very important to me. The heavyweight division is very exciting right now with many top names, and I believe I am one of them. I've only seen a few of Browne's fights. He's a tough, experienced boxer. I've been looking for a step-up opponent for a very long time. It will be an exciting fight while it lasts. On March 28th, I intend to put on a spectacular performance. The fans will love it. And his promoter, Dmitry Salita, says the heavyweight landscape is changing at a rapid pace. I believe Apti has the size and power and skills to be a real force in the heavyweight division. He will have to put all of that on display to be victorious in his big test against Lucas Browne. And I guess in terms of this fight, with Lucas Browne being over 40 and obviously looking pretty dreadful in recent fights, it is a step up in some sense, but it's not a huge step. But I think more importantly, it's the exposure that's going to matter for Apti Davtaev, who's effectively been campaigning in obscurity. He recently signed on with Dmitry Salita, and he's got a bit of a boost in profile. And then when Otto Wallin pulled out of this fight with Browne, he was able to step in. And remembering, this will be his third fight of 2020 already. Some heavyweights we will only see once this year, twice max for a few of them. So Apti Davtaev is looking to make waves. He's unbeaten at the moment, 20-0 and 1 draw. It'll be interesting to see what can he do in this Browne fight. If he can knock out Browne spectacularly, then obviously that is a good boost for his profile. And then maybe we will see him in a bigger and better fight, which at this point in his career, over 20 fights deep, he certainly needs it. The unbeaten enigma that is Christopher Lovejoy has been confirmed to face Chauncey Welliver on May 30th in Montana. There will be a WBA regional strap on the line, which is the Oceania belt, which for a moment I thought, hang on, this is being held in the United States. The Oceania region is where I'm from, which is New Zealand, and covers Australia too, and obviously some of the outlying areas. But yeah, so Welliver, though, he does actually reside in New Zealand, so perhaps that is the reason it's been put on the line here, because he is eligible, through his residency or something like that. But clearly he's going to be going back to his homeland, fighting Lovejoy, and this will be an interesting test for Christopher Lovejoy, because Welliver, he's got a resume of more than 50 wins. He was once an okay heavyweight, but Christopher Lovejoy, 19-0 at the moment. He's fought exclusively down in Mexico in club level fights. He is one of these enigmas in the heavyweight division who's got a number of headlines through statements and other bits and pieces that have gone on in his career to date. In the last year or two, the press has been way outweighing what he's done in his actual career. No one really knows how good this guy is. But at 36 years old, and Welliver is also 36 years old, it'll be interesting to see what does he really have. Hopefully there will be some footage of this fight, or maybe it will be sort of streamed via Facebook or something like that. But Lovejoy will be in a fight, his first fight on home soil in the United States. Canadian heavyweight Simon Kean has indicated he's got some big news coming soon, which can only mean that a fight is going to be announced for him shortly. So in a post on social media where he sort of waxes lyrical about, his promoter and how great a move it was, he does say a couple of times, stay tuned, big news coming soon. And the other stuff is he's promoted by Eye of the Tiger Management, so I won't get into that. But Kean last fought against Sergey Lyakovich, the 43-year-old, I think think at the time he looked a little bit off kilter in that fight. Eventually stopped him later on in the fight. It'll be interesting to see where Kean's level is, because as he stepped up, he obviously took a loss to Dylan Carmen a couple of years ago, and he doesn't really seem to have regained his confidence fully following that loss. Very tentative against the faded Liakovic. How far can Simon Kean go? It's a big question. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.